Now, let's look at 4 uses of microlearning. There's 4 key ways when people use microlearning. And what's really interesting to me is that when people say they're going micro, they're using one of these 4, but they usually use the same word, microlearning, for all of them. And so it gets really confusing and muddy for us as an industry because we all say micro, but we're doing something different. So for me, I like to think of microlearning in these 4 key ways. Now I'm going to share their kind of official names plus some common names for them as well. So first we have preparation. This is any time you're using microlearning to set people up for some longer form learning, whether that is instructor-led training in a classroom or virtual instructor-led training, or even an e-learning module, right? We're using microlearning to prepare them for that longer form training. And then of course you can also use microlearning in follow-up to long form training, right? So if you've got a class or again, an e-learning even, you can have follow-up material that you send after the class, and that can also be done as microlearning. Now the next one is called standalone. This is what I often think of when I think of microlearning. Personally, this is when you have pieces that stand by themselves and they don't need any other classes. And so when you're, say, on LinkedIn or on the internet and you look up a little something that you need help with right now and you watch a 3 or 5 minute video and then you're done, that is standalone microlearning. Often, again, the things you might see on LinkedIn or often on your company intranet or, again, the internet in many forms. And then we have support. That's when you're using microlearning to help people on the job. That's when they're doing their job task and you're supporting them using micro content. All of these also have common names. And so I'm going to share those with you. You'll probably be familiar with many of them. So this first one, preparation, is pre-work, right? And we've been doing pre-work for years, right? So this in many ways isn't all that new, but to me, the big thing is that we're thinking shorter, right? We often have trouble getting people to do their pre-work. And so what we're encouraging here is if you take a micro focus, that you'll create something that feels more attainable, right? That people will be like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's just 10 minutes, or I can just do these couple 5-minute pieces before I go to class, right? And so that's pre-work. Then there's also follow-up. A lot of people call this boost learning. So boost learning is anytime you, again, you're sending little reinforcement messages to the learner after a longer form instruction. And so these can be done by email messages, by text messages, even on Teams and Slack and places like that. So again, boosting is really about the reinforcement. And so these pieces are usually very, very short. They're very quick because all you're looking to do is reinforce what the learner has learned. And so, in fact, Art Cohen's research shows that a piece of microlearning of this form only needs to be 30 to 60 seconds to be effective. Now, standalone, I never had a really great name for it. And so I call it short form learning. And this, again, like I said, is really where you're thinking about taking a single piece of content, a single learning objective, and creating just one piece of standalone content that can meet your learning objective. And so that short form learning is usually sitting on your intranet or the internet, and then people are accessing it that way. Or maybe you put it on your LMS if you're making it required, that sort of thing. And then the last one is performance support. Performance support is talked about often. I think a lot of people are getting very excited about that space right now because the idea of supporting people on the job is just so powerful, right? And so performance support is often things like job aids and checklists and things like that. But sometimes we also have some little bit of just-in-time training, right? Some little piece of nugget of content that would help them learn a task so they can then be on their way, doing their job right away. So those are your 4 use cases of microlearning. And again, like I said, I think it's really important that we're thinking about these things as their unique characteristics, because every time people say they're going micro, again, they're usually talking about one of these 4 things. And so to clarify with those people, which one are you doing, can really help you to have better conversations and a better understanding of what they're doing. And if you're working on it, it also gives you a better chance to think about what you're really trying to achieve and how long would really be the optimal length, and even what format you might use to provide this microlearning.